represents one of Wauseon High School's great long-standing traditions. I'm really looking forward to all of our performances today. I think we have 4 great speakers and 4 great entertainment performances for your enjoyment today. I would ask that you show your peers a high level of respect and please give them your undivided attention today as they perform for you. Before I introduce our host today, I would like to recognize and thank Mrs. Zintek for her work in organizing today's events. She has organized and put everything together. Please give her a round of applause. At this time, I would like to introduce our program host for today's Freedom Shrine speech program. Please welcome Mr. Jason Robinson to the podium.
I also would like to welcome you to Wauseon High School's 60th Annual Freedom Shrine Rededication Program. We are pleased to have faculty, administration, students, parents, grandparents, judges, and friends present for our speech presentations today. Each year at this time, we give attention to the Freedom Shrine display, which is a collection of replicas of documents representing the foundation of the United States of America. The National Exchange Club has sponsored the placement of these displays in public places throughout the United States. Today's event is the culmination of a great deal of hard work by our Freedom Shrine advisors and students, and we are proud of their accomplishments. The quality of their efforts today represents a continuation of the fine tradition of our Freedom Shrine program. At this time, I would like to acknowledge Mrs. Heath, whose direction has resulted in today's excellent program. I am also pleased to present to you, at this point in time, a choir ensemble who will begin our program by singing the national anthem. Please stand and remain standing afterwards as we give our Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag, which is at your left. At this time, I would like to recognize our judges who have taken time out of their busy days and schedules in order to be here with us. First, we have representative and active member of the Wauseon VFW and Legion Auxiliary, Ruth Ann Cass. Next, we have head coach of the Wauseon High School speech team and newly minted member of the Ohio Speech and Debate Association Hall of Fame, Mrs. Dolores Muller. And finally, former Wauseon agricultural instructor and FFA advisor, Jim Spees. The contest participants this year are Sarah Matthews, Seth Nansu, Jesse Garcia, and Anais Thompson. So let's get this show on the road. Apparently, before we get started with this, I completely overlooked the fact that we do have a presentation at this time from the Wasion High School Marching Band, and then we're going to go ahead and get started with our speakers. I now present to you our first speaker, Sarah Matthews, whose speech title is The Responsibility of Representation.
We are all known in our friend group for something. Maybe you're the leader, the one who can take the stupidest idea and make it sound like the best possible thing to do. Or maybe you're the daredevil, the one who's not afraid to break a few bones, as long as they look cool doing it. Or, of course, the joker, the one with an impeccable sense of comedic timing. To tell you the truth, I am none of these things. In my friend group, I'm commonly accepted as the resident nerd. The one who's not always the life of the party, but makes the perfect teammate trivia night. However, as with every resident nerd, I have focused my intellect onto one core area. My specialty, the Marvel Universe. In fact, I have 3 encyclopedias dedicated to the characters and important storylines. While I have a superhuman knowledge about them, there's a lot many don't know about our beloved superheroes, like the original reasons they were created and the thematic conflicts of characters regularly face. These themes were used to reflect problems in the world, and still are. The representation of people in society are important to show. First, we will look at important historical characters and their influence. Then a bit at current teams and heroes and about their representation of minorities and sensitive topics. Finally, we'll look at how Marvel represents people with disabilities. Stan Lee, a Marvel legend, revived one of the most popular characters today, Captain America, or Steve Rogers, who was pretty much discontinued after World War II until the creation of the Avengers. However, during World War II, the great Captain was used as propaganda. I'm sure you've all seen the picture of Captain America punching Hitler in the face. But at the time, he wasn't taken well by the public. This is because we weren't actually a part of the war yet, and no one wanted to talk about it. But after we joined, he was accepted into society and represented America. Cap was then put to rest after World War II until the creation of the Avengers, in the Avengers #4 in 1964. Then he developed into the character we know and love today. But the title of Captain America has changed and been passed around, and Steve Rogers has taken on alternate names. This is because he stopped representing the America he woke up into, an America divided and unrepresentative of his form of patriotism. This development reflects our own societal change. An original creation of Stan Lee is Spider-Man. When Spider-Man was created, he wasn't expected to be successful because of the common fear of spiders, but he was. And as his comics were developed, it discussed topics like student activism, political elections, the Vietnam War, and with Peter Parker's story, bullying. Marvel also produced in 1967 one of the first serious supporting African-American characters, Robbie Robertson. But because of some of the topics discussed, like drug addiction, some Spider-Man comics were not approved by the Comics Code of Authority, or CCA, who regulated the content in comics and had influence on what people read. But these comics sold in large numbers, and Marvel was praised for being so conscious to the issues. Because Marvel was showing something real, something important. However, a more current and iconic comic of Spider-Man is the 9/11 issue. After the events of September 11, 2001, Marvel displayed through Spider-Man the destruction and horrendousness of the act, but also the true heroicness of all those who helped save lives. These comics focus on our society and events that have happened within it. There were also full teams created to talk about sensitive topics, like the X-Men. The X-Men struggle with being accepted by the world is continued to show the representations of issues. These struggles are compared to the experiences by minority groups in America, such as Muslims, LGBT, African Americans, and many more. They compare with themes like racism, religion, anti-Semitism, the Red Scare, and even genocide. Some of these connections, however, are made much more real for the team. For example, when a younger version of Bobby, or Iceman, is outed by Jean Grey in a comic published in April of 2015. Transgender issues are also brought up with characters like Mystique, a shapeshifter who can change their gender at will. In the case of religion, there are 2 characters we can point to. Nightcrawler, a devout Catholic, and Dust, a devout Sunni Muslim who wears an Islamic niqab. People take these representations so far as to connect Charles Xavier to Martin Luther King Jr. and Magneto to Malcolm X. This team represents the non-acceptance of people who are different by nature, the inability to be accepted by society out of fear of something that is different. This representation was impactful for its time and ours. We look at these heroes being rejected for their powers and think it's stupid. They're being forced out for being different. But they're doing the same to the people around us, the people who are different. One more character relevant to today's society is X-23. who is my favorite character, and a clone of Wolverine. A theme we see with her is the theme of underage prostitution. In the NYX comics, X-23 is a young prostitute under the pimp, Zebra Daddy. During this time, she was mostly mute, self-harmed, and unable to free herself. Years later, in X-23 number 20, Girls Night Out, she sees a girl in a similar situation and helps her. As she's helping the girl escape, she utters a few words to the girl's pimp while stabbing him in the groin. Not me or anyone else again. This not only resulted in the rescuing of that girl, but all of the girls under him, including what appeared to be a 6 to 10-year-old little girl. Prostitution and human trafficking is reoccurring with X-23, and these themes are important to talk about, especially in the world and place we live in today. Columbus is in the top 5 cities for human trafficking, and confronting these issues with our heroes helps us understand and realize the problems we are truly facing. These themes are just some of what Marvel confronts. Marvel has also produced a number of disabled characters. These include, but are not limited to, Daredevil, a blind man with depression, Jubilee, who has a learning disability, Hawkeye, who is deaf, Magneto, who has PTSD, and Jessica Jones, who has PTSD, and of course, Professor X, or previously mentioned Charles Xavier, who is a paraplegic. However, my favorite disabled character would have to be the Blue Ear. The Blue Ear stands out to me because it was created in honor of Anthony Smith. According to Fox News, Anthony Smith is a hard-of-hearing little boy who is a comic book fan. But one day he refused to wear his hearing aids in school because he said, superheroes don't wear blue ears. His mother emailed Marvel, and in response, they sent him a Hawkeye comic and created the blue ear in his honor. This story highlights how Marvel approaches representation in their comics. However, many people believe that politics should remain up to the media. We have seen this in a couple cases. For example, when Colin Kaepernick took a knee during the national anthem in peaceful protest. Everyone had an opinion. I couldn't get on Facebook without seeing it. One of those opinions, though, is that athletes shouldn't be a part of the discussion on politics. People want their stars to just play their role in society and not be a part of it. This opinion can also be seen on the screen in movies and TV. You can find comments anywhere about how that character doesn't have to be gay. It's the gay agenda. They are a little right. No, that character doesn't have to be gay. But they are. Because gay people exist in our society, and they're not just characters on screen. They could be your closeted gay cousin, your neighbor, or your best friend. These representations are not just characters or media. They're real-life situations and problems that the general public needs to see. Marvel will continue to show social injustice and representation of disabilities. While Marvel has room for improvement like everyone else, they have made great advances over time. A more recent advancement being the recently released Black Panther movie, which featured not only a heavily African-American cast, but strong and powerful female characters. These representations make us familiar to the unknown and help our understanding of the world. More media show these representations, but you must remember, with great power comes great responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. As part of the continuing tradition of Freedom Shrine, we will be featuring different talents from Wasion High School throughout and in between each and every speaker. Our first entertainer for the afternoon is Monica Betts, who will be presenting Warrior.
story that I have never told. I gotta get this off my chest and let it go. I need to take back the light inside you stole. You're criminal, and you steal like your parole. All the pain and truth I wear like a battle wound. So ashamed, so confused, I was broken and bruised. But now I'm a warrior. Now I've got thicker skin. I'm a warrior. I'm stronger than I've ever been, and my armor is made of steel. You can't get in. I'm a warrior. You can never hurt me again. Out of the ashes, I'm burning like a fire. You can save your apologies. You're nothing but a liar. I've got shame, I've got scars that I will never show. I'm a survivor in more ways than you know. 'Cause all the pain and truth I wear like a battle wound. So ashamed, so confused, I was broken and bruised. But now I'm a warrior. Now I've got thicker skin. I'm a warrior. I'm stronger than I've ever been, and my armor is made of steel. You can't get in. I'm a warrior, and you can never hurt me. There's a part of me I can't get back. A little girl grew up too fast. All it took was one thing. I'll never be the same. Now I'm taking back my life today. Nothing left that you can say, 'cause you were never gonna take the blame anyway. Now I'm a warrior. I've got thicker skin. I'm a warrior. I'm stronger than I've ever been, and my armor is made of steel. You can't get in. I'm a warrior, and you can never hurt me again. Ooh, oh, ooh, yeah, yeah. You can never hurt me again.
I love this day. Our second speaker today is Seth Mansu, whose speech is titled An Ordinary Day in a Not So Ordinary World.
April 20th, 1999. December 14th, 2012. February 14th, 2018. These dates may not be important to you, but to all the victims, these dates have forever changed their lives, and they are the worst memories of their lives. These dates are important because these are the 3 worst school shootings in history. Columbine, Sandy Hook, and the Stoneman Douglas High Schools are just a few examples of the outcomes of bullying, and these school shootings must stop. April 20th, 1999 was just a normal Tuesday for these Colorado students attending Columbine High School until the clock struck 11:19 a.m. At 11:19 a.m., 2 high school seniors dressed in trench coats started to shoot at their classmates. As they would kill their classmates, they would be cheerful and be joyful. Before the shooting, they would call themselves the Trench Coat Mafia Outcasts. The result of bullying caused them to believe that they were outcasts in their school, which caused them to follow through and strike terror and fear in their school. This was not only just a thought that they just came up out of the blue. They planned this for over a year. However, they wanted a much bigger outcome than what they wanted. They originally wanted to bomb the school, killing hundreds of their classmates, gaining inspiration from the Oklahoma City bombing in 1995. 13 people, including the shooters, lost their lives and 22 people were injured on that horrifying day. 19 years later, the shooting has still left a scar in the Littleton community. According to the Washington Post, there was a debate on gun control and school safety shortly after the shooting. Only one major law strengthening gun control was passed. 800 gun bills were introduced and less than 10% were passed shortly after the incident. Since the shooting rampage, there have been many copycats, and some people believe that if they could too shoot up the school, then they would be as infamous as these shooters. Not long after the shooting, people started to tell their stories. Melissa Miller, a 15-year-old girl at the time, hid behind a truck while the shooters were going through rounds of ammo and throwing pipe bombs in the parking lot. "This was the worst day of my life," she said. 2 pipe bombs were feet away from her. Thankfully, she was not injured. However, she saw another student who was shot in the leg. He tried to run away, but when he looked over his shoulder, before almost reaching safety, the shooters were right behind him. Pure terror and fear filled his face, and his eyes were extremely large. She will never forget that face. As Melissa was hiding, her friend Anne-Marie was shot in the stomach. Luckily, she is still alive. Melissa also stated, "Maybe if Eric and Dylan had tried to turn their lives around, maybe 12 of my peers wouldn't be dead, and maybe Anne-Marie wouldn't be learning how to walk again." December 14th, 2012 was like any other school day for these 6 and 7-year-old kids. Christmas break would start, and Santa would be bringing the presents to their house. What they did not know was that a 20-year-old man would open fire at the Sandy Hook Elementary School, killing 20 students, 6 teachers, a mother, and injuring 2 others. The shooting only lasted for 10 minutes. But this has forever scarred the children, teachers, community, and this country. At 9:30 a.m., a 20-year-old man began to shoot through the window next to the entrance so he could get into the school. Shortly after that, the principal and the school psychologist went to investigate the noises heard. Sadly, they were shot. He also injured 2 other staff members. Later, he entered into a first-grade classroom and shot 15 students and 2 teachers. And then he went into another classroom and killed 2 teachers and 5 students soon after. When the shooter learned that the police were closing in on him, he then killed himself. He killed himself at 9:40 a.m. While the police investigated, they figured out that the shooter attended the Sandy Hook High School elementary school as a boy and acted alone in planning and doing the attack. Before the attack, he also killed his mother at their home. They also learned that the shooter was bullied throughout high school. In 2013, the Connecticut State's Attorney stated that the shooter had significant mental health issues that did affect his ability to live a normal life. Mental health professors who worked with him did not see any signs of this awful tragedy. Caitlin Roy DeBellis, a teacher from the Sandy Hook High Elementary School, explained in her book about what she did to keep her students safe. She and her class were crammed into a bathroom. However, one boy was standing on the toilet, shaking out of nervousness and terror. He flushed the toilet on accident. "This was a matter of life and death," she said. Instead of waiting and staying in the bathroom, she moved the children one by one. She found an empty classroom. The adjoining classroom, however, was not so lucky. Victoria Soto, another teacher, hit her first graders. She just closed the door, but the shooter came in. Soto died while trying to protect her kids. Children in the other classroom were terrified, saying, "I just want my mom. I don't want to die before Christmas." Thankfully, the SWAT team led them to safety. Since then, Sandy Hook Elementary School was taken down and a new one was opened 4 years later. What changed after Sandy Hook? People began to fight for gun control. They tried to fight for universal background checks for firearm sales. Most states at the time did not require background checks. After the shooting, 4 states began to have background checks for firearms. Now, only 18 states have background checks in place. The Newtown community also created a foundation named the Sandy Hook Promise. They also created 2 PSA videos which talk about the warning signs and saying something before a shooting would happen. Not too long ago, Wasion, Bryan, Maumee, Defiance, and many other schools received threats from their students. Thankfully, our school handled things well, and people stood up and told someone. If this could happen everywhere, then we would probably have less school shootings. Our school currently has the night lock system, which helps barricade the doors, but we also follow the ALICE training in case a shooter was to come into the school and break the night lock system. February 14th, 2018. Everybody has heard about this shooting. Like all the other shootings, it seems like a normal day. However, at 2:19 p.m., a witness spots the shooter and alerts a colleague. At 2:21 p.m., he hears gunshots and reports that there is a school shooter in the Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland. The shooter murdered 14 students and 3 teachers, 12 people in school, 2 in the street, and 2 died in the hospital. The rampage lasted only 6 minutes. Investigators later found out that the shooter was bullied many times prior to the incident, and police had many opportunities to prevent this shooting. However, they missed the warning signs of this planned shooting. Since the Parkland shooting, there have been more changes than any other school shooting. States have tightened gun control laws aimed at improvising school safety, and many other are looking at proposals. Actions have been taken by local governments to change gun laws, and companies have changed their policies since the shooting. While the other side believes that schools should have more guns to prevent massacres, you cannot control another person's actions. The other side also believes that by giving teachers guns, students will feel more protected and safe. However, some people may find a gun in the teacher's desk and they might harm the classmates or even themselves. If there were to be a shooting and a teacher uses the gun and follows protocol, police may even believe that he or she is the shooter. Some teachers don't even want to be armed. They just want to teach. However, instead of giving teachers guns, we can add professional locks in each and every classroom in every school. We can enhance our school security by adding specifically trained officers who can deal with attackers. If this were to happen, we can have background checks in each state and maintain this. You can only be alert and aware of the warning signs. You can help prevent these awful tragedies from happening at your school by speaking up. You have a chance and you have a choice to protect school shootings. Thank you.
Thank you, Seth. Next up, we have Olivia Clark performing a dance routine to This Is Me.
There's a place for us, for we are lovely. be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me. It's my skin. I'll fire away. 'Cause today won't let the train get in. We have always been through the barricades. We won't say our warriors. That's what we did. I won't let them break me down. I know that there's a place for us. Oh, we're warriors. This is me. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna send a bird, gonna drown out. This is brave, this is bruised, this is who I'm meant to be. This is me.
Thank you, Olivia. Our next speaker is Jesse Garcia, and the title of his speech is The First Step.
Let us take a moment to think of why we are here. Waseon Annual Freedom Shrine is always one of those assemblies that I always look forward to. From hearing ideas spoken as if they are stolen from my own mind, to hearing concerns that I never thought of from the student body. Hearing personal experiences to funny skits performed by our very talented classmates, it's a time to really praise those with the courage to speak out. We find an insight into our fellow classmates' minds. It's a chance to put ourselves in their shoes and to see what they see, to think what they think, and sometimes to feel what they feel. We could all give Freedom Shrine speeches. We all have our stories to tell. But for some reason, not many of us are willing to come up here and tell them. Why? For some, it is because there just isn't enough time. But no matter the excuse, the real reason is a common issue which we all share. You look around you, face to your left, face to your right, look at every set of eyes and every person in here. We all have a common problem. Everybody in this room all shares the problem of inadequacy. It's a big word, but it's a big problem nonetheless. This is a feeling that many don't want to confront, and this is a topic that many people just don't understand. It's a feeling that hits people on the daily, and it's a topic that people like myself don't go a day without thinking about. I can personally say I have faced feeling inadequate almost every day of my life, just so I'm sure some of you can relate. To get a better understanding of what I'm talking about, let's take a look at what this word really means. The dictionary defines inadequacy as the state or quality of being inadequate, lack of the quantity or quality required. To put it in my words, it's just feeling like you're not good enough. We have all been there. You'd be lying to me if you say you haven't. But it's not about lying to me, whether I'm your friend or a stranger, but it's really about lying to yourself. You don't deserve to be lied to. Nobody in this room wants to be lied to. And whether you take a comforting lie over the painful truth, in the end, nobody likes being lied to. If I lied to you, how would it affect you? See, to many of you, I'm a stranger, so would it matter? But to some of you, I'm a friend. What if I lied to you? You'll feel it. and it hurts. Now think of your parents, your brothers, your sisters, classmates, your coaches, your teachers, or significant other. Think of the people with this value to you. It hurts. It hurts when the people that you rely on let you down in the aspect of honesty. So tell me how you can look at yourself every day knowing that you're lying to yourself. How can you tell yourself every day that you're not good enough? No matter what the problem is, until it's resolved, it grows. And that's the key word here. At the end of the day, you have to be enough for yourself. I don't care how many friends you have, how good your relationships are, or how well your family functions. I don't care if you come here as happy as can be every day and you get that privilege of going home with that same smile, because it's important to know that when your life comes down, you will never be alone because you got your spirit. You will never be alone. And as I say that phrase, I can imagine a lot of you picture your relationships. And it's good that you got those in your heart and mind. The people in your life hold value to you, so you never feel alone. You never feel inadequate because they love you. You have your religion on your side, you have your backbone, you've got these things in your life, so if you fall, you feel that someone or something will catch you. But these things might not be around forever. At one point in my life, I felt I had nearly lost everything. Nobody got me like I got me, and nobody felt what I felt when I was down. I have been lied to by the people who meant most to me. I have built relationships with people that have lasted years, only to be cut off in a matter of seconds. When I was alone, I realized that I didn't think I was good enough for myself. And if I wasn't good enough for myself, then how could I be good enough for anybody else? In the blink of an eye, my heart feels heavy, and my hands get shaky as the air dashes from my lungs. You see tears fall from my eyes, I see my spirit ripping itself apart. With each and every drop and each and every sniffle was a part of my innocence shattering, and with every dark thought was a friendship lost. With every sleepless night was just a dream destroyed. And with every I can't that I said to myself, I was just setting myself back from my goals for an undetermined duration. But on the other end of the spectrum, at the other end of all this pain, was myself, asking myself, is this it? Is this what you fought hard for? An unhappy ending. See, I picked myself up every single time because I knew deep down, you've always got yourself. So why lie to yourself? Emotion is powerful. It makes us cry when we don't want to, we yell when we don't mean to, and we laugh without hesitation, and that's powerful. The only thing more powerful is the human spirit. Spirit-driven innovation is everywhere. Look at where we are today. We live in an equal opportunity, co-ed community, and we live in a safe environment protected by laws and rights that great people of our country fought long and hard for. Race barriers have come down, and we have landed on the moon. We have supercomputers in our pockets, and none of that would have ever happened if we let our ambition and desires rise above our inadequate thoughts. Inadequacy seeks those among us who are afraid, because inadequacy thrives amongst our fears. Fear kills thousands of dreams every minute. Fear has limited people to great proportions. Fear will get into your head, and it can ruin your perspective on something as great as the life you're living now. Fear kills friendships, relationships, households, and families. So what do we do to fight back against this? It's simple. We realize that we are not inadequate, that we are enough. Realization and acceptance of your own strength is the first step towards the path of success in this world with limitless boundaries. It's the first step, it's the biggest step, and it's the most important step. But yet it's a step that nobody wants to take. Since the 6th grade, I've had a goal, I've had a plan. But fear shut me out of my goal just as fast as I attained the confidence to dream it. To someday be on the battlefield, fighting and risking my life to give back to those who I could never repay. From my mother and my father, and my brother and my sister, to all the friends that I have gained, all the friends that I have lost, and to the family that has passed, and even for the family that is soon to come. There was nothing that I wanted more in this world than to give. But all I was giving was myself excuses. I wanted, but never wanted to work for it because my excuses had outweighed my dedication. Referring back to my emotions, I had just began to feel so down that I knew something had to change. Now fast forward to my senior year, I look at fear and I laugh at it. I look at the people who told me, you will never make it. I look at the people who told me to find a real dream. I look back at what I went through, setbacks of injury, my weight, medical issues, all had which caused an upsurge within my life. And I thank God every day, because without those, I wouldn't be the man that I am today. While these obstacles had stacked, I had felt hopeless. A part of me broke from my family. I lost the bond with my friends, and I lost the bond within myself. Turning to stupid decisions, I had lost a lot of respect from those who I held dearest to my heart. And one of the biggest, hardest things that I had ever faced was just knowing I was a burden to them. The pain was so great, and the pain eventually began to take over. But I turned my pain into greatness. I pulled the knives out of my back that life had stuck to me, and one by one I conquered each and every setback. I went to church, I associated myself with people who were hungry for innovation, and I looked to a new direction and a road of which I had never set foot onto. I took the first step. With step comes the pace. With pace comes routine. And with the routine formed a habit, in which the habit formed a movement. An inner movement within myself that nothing in this world was too big to accomplish. We as people thrive for routine. We do things a certain way, and if it's not done how others see fit, then it's wrong. But as my pounds shed off, my friends did too. I focused on my mentors, and I focused on the change that those who had bashed on me were just igniting the flames from within. I look at those people and the problems I had faced, and I thank them. Because as of August 15, 2017, I officially enlisted into the U.S. Armed Forces. As August 15th, I beat my fear. I conquered the heaviest obstacle I would ever overcome, and that's discovering my own greatness. The amount of greatness that is within every single soul in this room is unmeasurable. I have observed the change in countless people, including myself, and we discover ourselves more and more as the time passes by. Once you overcome your inadequacy, the greatness inside you surprises you. The courage to speak in speech, or to storm the football field on Friday, it's incredible. Now listen to me preach and understand as I teach, this does not make me your teacher. I'm not your coach, and I'm not your boss. Instead, listen to me as your conscience, the voice that you had buried deep down, and the voice of you that nobody sees on a regular basis. How many of you can relate to these obstacles as I list them off? Divorce, death, money, academic failure, obesity, sickness, injury. What about inadequacy? I gave up on myself, and mark my words, that is the biggest mistake any of you in this building will ever make. I control my life. I control what hurts me. And it was just a matter of how bad I wanted to rise above and push these mountains as far as I could. When you think you can't push anymore, you be patient. Because patience is a virtue that can make or break you. You pushed too early, you weren't strong enough, you thought you didn't have to practice, you failed, you feel like a failure, you give up. But you shoot too late, the mountain's been moved. Don't let nobody move your mountain, because there is nothing that you can't be, and there's nothing that you can't do. Every single one of you wants to be the greatest. I take one peek at this audience. I see an artist, and I see the message behind their paintings. We might not all be capable of winning the Super Bowl ring. We can all work hard and achieve greatness in our own way. I see wrestlers with the drive and the heart to win titles. And I see choir students who can be the next voice in music. But it starts with today. You need the mindset to make every day count as if it's your last. This is your time, and you've got one chance at this life. So do not waste it wallowing around in excuses and reasons as to why you haven't taken your first step. I am beyond blessed to call this school my school. I have been blessed to meet the staff. I have been blessed to meet the student body of my own hometown and have had the privilege of being a part of your life, so it's important for me to give back. The next time you are sitting there and you want to give up, it's important for you to know that your dreams mean something to somebody. Because your dreams mean something to me. If they didn't, I wouldn't have taken my time to open your eyes. Nobody stops you but you. This is our time, so let's leave a legacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. Next, we have an instrumental performance by Paige Bowden titled Reverie in Tum Balalika, arranged by Carol McClure. Our final speaker this morning is Anais Thompson with her speech titled Lust versus Love.
Hey baby, my name's Microsoft. Can I crash at your place tonight? As you know, many terrible pickup lines like these and Netflix and chill have been used to try and fulfill lustful desire that many have had. Well, funny and seemingly harmless, pickup lines show what our generation has become today. A hookup culture. A culture that no longer focuses on love, but rather on being satisfied. A generation that focuses on self instead of others. This leads me to wonder how in temporary Instafix culture we can shift our focus to try and love one another,
rather than use one another. Social media crams in our faces apps such as Tinder, Hot or Not, and Omingo. Apps designed solely for the purpose of finding someone to sleep with for the night, and then promptly ditch. Social media capitalizes that which ignites the human drive of instant gratification, lust. Lust is defined as a very strong sexual desire. And in our culture, that values immediate gratification. It seems to be the only thing people are looking to fulfill anymore. It doesn't matter how temporary or who gets hurt in the process. Instead, the focus is on, how can I satisfy myself tonight? A psychiatrist, Judith Orloff, found for the brain, lust is the equivalent of being on drugs. She states, MRI scans illustrate that the same area lights up when an addict gets a fix of cocaine as when a person is experiencing the intense lust of physical attraction. The human race tends to be driven by what makes them feel good, rather than rationale, which would reflect the importance of making good decisions and having healthy relationships. For example, teenagers often seek out quick, easy hookups rather than trying to form lasting connections. In today's society, people are using each other like drugs, throwing them away once they get the desired effect they wanted. Sex, for example, can be a substitute for a drug because people can be addicted to it like cocaine, meth, and even heroin. Different from lust, love is identified as an intense feeling of deep affection. Why have people in society today lost the desire for a feeling of affection? Why is shallow preferred to deep? Why is emptiness preferred to connection? Sexual gratification is short-lasting, while a meaningful relationship can create longer-lasting affection. In today's society exists a fear of commitment, meaningful connection, being hurt, and hurting the ones you may fall in love with. These fears are stopping many from trying to love one another, simply because they do not want to risk being hurt. So instead, people find themselves submitting to one-night stands or having friends with benefits. Ironically enough, people still manage to be hurt in this temporary, allegedly meaningless situation. Imagine being the person who is used for someone else's temporary satisfaction and who is later thrown away. How would that affect your mental health? Being used instead of loved can have a major impact on one's mental health. Both lack of meaningful human connection can cause a lack of self-worth, depression, and suicidal thoughts. Today's hookup culture reinforces these negative emotions because people focus on quick fulfillment instead of real affection. Some do not have the same intentions going into a sexual relationship as the other partner might have. The one who is in it for love rather than lust will be hurt and sorely let down, leading to issues with how they feel about themselves. People are willing to destroy others for their own personal desires to be satisfied. I find this to be an outrage. People are not meant to be used like this. Human beings are being viewed as a sexual item over a soul. One may ask why this is happening. We can get a better understanding of why by looking at the science behind love and lust. It is found that lust can turn into love, but this cannot happen unless the person who is experiencing these two feelings lets it happen. Kate Suckle, an author who writes on sex, love, and neuroscience, states, "A little lust can eventually turn into love, if we let it." However, in today's fast-moving society, lust between two people is not turning into love, simply because people are not letting it become love. Maybe it's social media, maybe it's too much focus on maintaining an "I want it and I want it now" attitude, or maybe it's just simple fear. No matter the cause, it's a sad realization. Love is an important feeling to experience in life, and it is beneficial to a human being. Love releases dopamine in the brain, which is the chemical that makes us happy. There are stages to falling in love. Lust is actually the first stage of love. It is caused by the release of testosterone and estrogen. It then transforms into attraction and eventually into the last stage, attachment. However, these stages have become insignificant because no one has been moving past lust. This is because of the fear of commitment and lust being like a drug. There is no serotonin released in this stage, which is considered to be one of the most important chemicals in love because it plays a role in attachment. There is nothing other than a desire for sex and lust. It is temporary fulfilling, where love can be long-lasting and fulfilling for a lifetime. So why are we choosing lust over love? How can we focus on trying to find love rather than lust? Some may say that hookup culture in our society doesn't exist, but that is not the case. The hookup culture is very obvious and noticeable. According to Statistica, a website dedicated to providing statistics and data, almost 60% of teenagers have had sexual intercourse as of 2015. If we look at just our high school, that would mean 318 out of 530 kids would have had sexual interactions in our school. There is no way that all of these have been people in relationships and were more than likely hookups. In order to stop living in a state of instant gratification, we should remove ourselves from hookup culture. We should focus less on satisfying our lust. We should take a step back from our own desires and instead work on establishing meaningful connection. We can do this by not rushing into sex, but instead taking someone out on a date if we like them. This would allow us to go get to know one another. It would possibly lead to a deeper sense of attraction and maybe eventually attachment. We can also do this by focusing on self-improvement. We can take a step back completely and discover who we are. If we aren't secure in ourselves, maybe we aren't ready for a relationship. It is important to have respect and confidence in yourself before moving into a relationship. A healthy bond is what should be worked for, not a short-term sexual partnership. If the focus was on love, we would all be in a better place. There is more benefit in love than there is in lust. When you love, you can have a bond where you are cared for, have someone to talk to, someone to rely on, and a long-term partner. While the idea of them leaving is scary, it is important to see that the fear can be overcome, and the love and happiness that you get out of it is worth the risk. It is important to look at a person for who they are and have interest in getting to know someone. Let's not let lust control us like drug addicts let heroin rule their life. Be stronger than your lust and don't let it be your drug of choice. Find happiness and fulfillment that can last a lifetime. Let's take a step back and take a moment to find love rather than give in to lust. Thank you.
Thank you, Anais. Once again, let's just hear it for all of our contestants today. At this time, our judges are excused to tally the winner of this year's Freedom Shrine, and once again, we'd just like to thank you for taking time out of your day and for coming here. Before our final performer comes up, I just want to go off script for just a second. We have a wide variety of speeches here today, and we have a wide variety of students here today. If you're a freshman, a sophomore, or a junior out there, and you've got a concern, if you've got a story, if you've got hope in something, then maybe, just maybe, you have the courage to come up here and speak in front of this crowd next year and be able to present. Some of these people started and got their inspiration for their ideas and their speeches just by sitting there where you are in the audience last year and listening to what the speakers had to say. I highly encourage you to take advantage of this opportunity. You won't get many like it, to be able to come forward and speak your mind on something that means something to you, and to be able to hopefully just make a small difference or an impact in somebody else's life. I'd like to thank the people who had the courage over the years to come forward, and the people who have auditioned for this competition, and all the people who have auditioned this year as well. And with that being said, I would like to now introduce Alex Guerrero, who will be presenting his national qualifying speech titled "The Abyss, a Program."
There are two things you should know. One, you were there. Two, you couldn't have been there. Holding these two incompatible truths together takes skill at juggling, of course. Juggling requires a third ball to keep the rhythm smooth. That third ball is time, which bounces much more widely than any of us would like to believe. Joey always told me, laughing as the but were actually a joke, that he wanted to kill himself, but it was never the right time. You see, there were always groceries to be bought or little brothers to be tucked in at night. But don't worry, Joey isn't going to kill himself 20 more lines into this poem. That's not the kind of story I'm trying to tell here. There are nights you can't sleep because these things you juggle, you fear that one ball might drop. And then what? You don't dare imagine a moment beyond that. Okay, so all year, adults, my peers, other people have been telling me to change the topic of my piece. That suicide is overdone, overplayed, it's a taboo subject. But in 2016, 44,000 people died from this taboo subject. With materials taken from Our Numbered Days by Neil Hilborn, the suicide note that inspired Adam's Song by Blink-182, and Challenger Deep by Neil Schusterman, a program. This is dedicated to all of my brothers and sisters who have had thousands of sleepless nights. All the people who are left up at night wondering if their friend is going to be alive the next morning, and to the ones we've lost to the abyss. To the man and woman who chose to conceive a child, the result of which was me, when it fit their 5-year plan. To the teachers who never really cared, no matter what they said. To my fellow geeks, dweebs, gamers, etc., who will no doubt receive more torment upon my passing. To my fellow students who made my life a living hell when they should have been more focused on their education. And to the God, if he does exist, who chose to play a cruel, cruel joke on me when he placed me where he did and surrounded me with so many uncaring faces. To all of you, goodbye. Now, we were 17 and I drove us all to punk shows in a station wagon older than any of us. We were 17 and I bought lunch for Joey more often than I didn't. We were 17 and the one time that Joey tried to talk to me about being depressed when someone else was in the room, I told him to shut the hell up. I asked him if he needed to change his tampon. My death makes life for one person a little more bearable, a little more enlightened. Do I really die in vain? You know that moment when the cartoon realizes he's taken 3 steps off the cliff. And he takes a long look at the audience like they're carrying the last moving box out of a half-empty house. Joey looked like that, but without the puff of smoke. I am leaving a world in which I never truly belonged or fit in. Do not weep for me or mourn my passing. I say this not because I expect to be missed, but to allow those who truly didn't care to go on with their lives, with a clean conscience and dry eyes. I know you don't want to weep for me, so don't. But I do ask you to listen to the final words of a young man who has taken charge of his own destiny. Maybe my parents might, feel something inside, which causes them to shed tears for their loss, but I hope it's something else. Maybe it's sorrow for bringing a child into this world when they really didn't have the time or dedication to raise him. I wasn't the product of love, born of a desire to prepare another human being to lead and grow with the human race. I was merely the next acquisition, the next task, the next project on their list of things that brings significance. No child should be brought into this world just to be another possession. I am not an asset to be cataloged and listed on your tax forms beside your car in the house or fought over during your divorce proceedings. I human being. Once I found Joey in my dad's office staring at the safe where he knew we kept the guns. Once Joey molded his car into the shape of a tree and refused to give a reason why. I once caught Joey in biology class, staring at his scalpel like he wanted to be the frog, splayed out, so open, so honest. There's this donation bucket at the mall. It's a big yellow funnel collecting for some children's charity that's really unpleasant to think about. You're supposed to put your coin in the slot and then let it go. It spins around for like a minute, making a rhythmic whirring sound that gets tighter and tighter, more intense, more desperate as it spirals closer to the hole. All that kinetic energy is just forced down the neck of the funnel until it's like a blaring alarm. Then it falls. Silent. I'm that coin on its way down, screaming at the neck of the funnel. Nothing but my own kinetic energy keeping me from falling into the abyss. There's one difference between me and Joey. When we got arrested, bail money was waiting for me at the station. When I was hungry, I ate. When I wanted to open myself up and see if there were bees rattling around in there, my parents got me a therapist. I can pinpoint the session that brought me back to the world. That session cost $75. $75 is a week's worth of groceries. It's a month worth of bus fare. It's not even a school year's worth of new shoes. It took weeks of $75 to get to the one that saved my life. We both had parents that believed in us when we said we weren't okay, but mine could afford to do something about it. There are many things I don't understand. Here's something I know. There's no such thing as a correct diagnosis. There are only symptoms and catchphrases for various lists of things. I wonder how many kids like Joey wanted to die and were unlucky enough to pull it off. How many kids had someone who cared about them but also had to pay rent? I'm so lucky I'm not describing Joey's funeral right now. I'm so lucky that we lived through who we were to become who we are. I'm so lucky, I'm so... To Marty, my best friend, you talked me out of this decision 3 times before. You even called 911 after I swallowed that bottle of pills. That's why I didn't tell you anything this time. Why I do this in secret. Alone. I wish you were coming with me on this great adventure into the final frontier. Wherever I go, yours will be the face I carry. The one soul I will miss. Yours is also the forgiveness I ask and beg for as I depart this life. I love you. I always will. Though you chose to die 5 years ago, friend, I still write your name on stray sheets of paper and chalkboard. I always leave out the E because I'm not finished with you yet. Your story isn't over. Thank you.
I would first like to say thank you to Mr. Robinson for being our host today. The one word I always think about every year at this program is courage, and the courage it takes to get up here and be one of our speakers or be one of our performers. And we are just blessed here at Wasion High School to have talented individuals across the board and sharing those talents with us. So please join me in giving them one more round of applause. Today, our runner-up Freedom Shrine contestants will be awarded $20 in Wasion Chamber dollars, and the winner will be awarded $100 in Wasion Chamber dollars. And these awards are provided from a donation that was given to us by the former Wasion Exchange Club. So in no particular order, our first runner-up is Sarah Matthews. Our second runner-up is Seth Mansu. Our third runner-up is Anais Thompson. And the winner of the 60th Annual Freedom Shrine Speaking Contest is Jesse Garcia. Shown to all of our performers today.